Hello, everybody. Welcome to our live stream. We are here for the first time in a while, and I'm just going to fix my hair because it's bothering me, and we haven't even started yet, so that doesn't bode well. But I'm just going to give things a little minute to make sure that everything is working, and it appears to be. So let's share the live stream. And we are going to be joined today by Naomi from Maydon Makes, which I'm super excited about. She is one of the Cheerfully Funded entrants, and I'm going to show you all about that just before she arrives as well. So we are in for a good hour together, and I'm going to introduce what this is as well, the All Things CGTV, which is the first time we've done this. So I am just going to share this to a couple of groups to make sure that people can see it. So where are we going? None of the Cheerfully Given groups are coming up when I go to share it. So give me 1 second. And then we'll get started. Sarah is joining in the chat. So hey to Sarah. I'm not sure if Becky's around as well. They have been absolutely amazing over the last year. They always are anyway, but they've been really helpful and just incredibly supportive when it comes to how the last year has gone. So there we go. We've shared it to a couple of groups on Facebook. If you're joining us on YouTube, then welcome. Hey, Sarah. So Sarah is in the chat. You will know her well if you have been to the summit or if you're part of the Cheerful Business Club, because she is just our amazing community manager. So welcome. Eleanor's here as well. Hello, Eleanor. Really lovely to see you here. So if you're joining from the summit group, then welcome. It's been a while since we've done a live together, and you may notice that my background has possibly changed. I think I've done one live since we moved house. We had a move of doom last summer, and I was already struggling with some health issues that have been going on since sort of like October, November 2020. So I've just been really unwell, unfortunately. And then this year so far, we've had, I'm not going to name names because we have a relatively small team in the scheme of things, but we've had an extra couple of people at the start of this year helping us with some bigger projects. And out of the 4 of us, 3 of us were in hospital. 3 of us had COVID, different 3, to varying degrees. So there's just been a lot to manage. And I have written a personal update, which I sent around to the Cheerfully Given sellers just to outline what has been going on. And if you want to read that, then please just let us know, but pop us maybe an email and I'll send you the link directly, because it's not something that I'm putting out there publicly because it's quite a lot of stuff. So anyway, we're here now and I'm super excited to be here. We've had so much going on behind the scenes that has been incredibly exciting from a Cheerfully Given point of view, including obviously the fact that last year we had rolled out our rebrand. And so we've been working on loads and loads of stuff behind the scenes, but I just haven't had the energy to talk about it because of balancing the health and the health things as well. So we are super excited for the next few weeks, really looking forward to sharing more about Cheerfully Funded with you, because we thought we'd come back with a little bit of a bang, as it were. Thankful to be settled. So I've told Andrew that if he wants to move at any point in the next 10 years, then he can count me out. I'm staying here. See, the Church of England can turf me out, but I'm not moving. I'm not moving anywhere. The Lord will have to come to me in a vision and a dream to tell me, Menekse, it is time for you to move house, because 7 moves in 10 years was too much. But we're super excited to be where we are now. Our community here in East London is amazing. Our local church is just brilliant. We feel really at home there. Everyone has been so encouraging. This month, Andrew and I both got COVID. It's the second or third time for me, and unfortunately it hit us hard, but we had people dropping off food, and it's just felt so lovely to be supported in that way. So really, really exciting to be here, and the space in our church is amazing for at some point doing a maybe an in-person event once people are feeling ready to come along and travel. We've got a tiny car park, but it's really easy to get to and everything as well. So that's already on my radar, and if any of you fancy joining, we might have a little prayer day or something low-key at some point this year, just to touch base with anyone who is willing and able to join. So Eleanor, congratulations that your baby was born. That is incredible news. Praise Jesus that he's arrived safely, and that you're well enough to be here on the live stream. So hopefully that means that you're doing okay as well. That's really brilliant news, and that's a really big change for you as well since the last summit when you were with us, and obviously we've touched base with you since then, but so much happens in a year, doesn't it? So we are here anyway to we're going to be chatting to Naomi. This is the first, sorry, this has been such a chaotic start, but I was like, I could procrastinate doing this for ages, because it's really feels really stressful going and doing a live when you haven't done a live for a while and all of that. So this is actually the first installment of Wednesday evenings, and we have got a new series called CGTV, which will be snazzier at some point, because we use a tool called StreamYard. We can put videos and all sorts in, so we've got some really cool stuff in mind for it as we go. But we're starting here and we're going to be joined by Naomi tonight, who is a Cheerfully Given seller from Maydor Makes. And basically the idea is that on a Wednesday we'll hang out from 8 till 9 p.m. on our live stream, either live on Facebook or via YouTube, and we will chat to Cheerfully Given sellers. We'll maybe get some inspiration, different projects being shared from different creatives around the UK. So the idea is that it's a space ultimately for you guys as well, and we want to make it something that can be a little bit of a creative recharge in the middle of the week. So that's the idea for it moving forward. But we're starting here, and you've just got me for now. And then Naomi is joining at about 8:15. We'll be talking to her for about half an hour, and then we'll wrap up. So Naomi is joining this week because it is our first interview, our first social media interview with one of the Cheerfully Funded participants. So the great thing about this is that I can share my screen, which I'm going to do because it is much easier to share pictures than words for me at the moment. So we're gonna do a screen share. But if I just figure out how to do this, it's been so long since I did a proper screen share that I've forgotten how to do it. So here we go. So Cheerfully Funded, what is it? You might have seen it already. We haven't shared it yet because I wanted to share it with you here on the live stream first. And we've mentioned it to a few people, but not en masse. So if it's the first time you're seeing it, then that's you haven't missed anything. Don't worry too much. So this is Cheerfully Funded, and the idea behind this is that you get to vote for your favorite product ideas, and then Cheerfully Given funds them and supports the artists and designers to bring them to market. And so we've got about 20 people who've created visuals and a whole project page to share their vision for what they want to do. Usually these are projects that are a bit risky. They're something that wouldn't normally be an easy thing to do because of the dynamics of running a small business. And so we are really just wanting to resource and equip people to bring fun new things to the market that are inspired by a life following Jesus. So on this page, I'll put the link in the chat, but on this page, you've got browse by product idea, so you can see a selection. We'll mix this up. This is the main landing page for the campaign, but we've got sort of a summary of the different products, and you can see some of the different product ideas. And then further down this page as well, you can scroll down and you can just see all of the different artists who are involved as well. Most of them are Cheerfully Given sellers, but if you are not a Cheerfully Given seller and you would like to submit a pitch, there is still time to do that. There's more information about that in the bottom of the page. So what happens is you can scroll through, and if we I'm going to take Amy's as an example here, but Amy has this idea for creating a set of illustrated devotional prayers. So there's 16 of them, and the idea is that there's one for each waking hour of the day, and they're inspired by medieval Book of Hours. So there's more information about that here, and if you want to see this product come to life, all you have to do is just submit a vote, and Amy will get that vote. And if Amy has a high number of votes by the end of the voting period on the 17th of June, then she will get the support from us, from Cheerfully Given, to bring this product to market, both with funding and also with one-to-one support as well. So there's a bit more about the artist on each page, and you can go through and browse all of them. So because the artists themselves are sharing each of these individual pages, we wanted to just make it for my web page there has had a little hiccup. Let me see, this one's working. So they're all working, but I think that the server maybe has just had a hiccup, so I'll sort that out when I'm not live anymore. But this is project from Naomi and Rob at Frog and Gnome, or Rob and Naomi, Frog and Gnome, and they have got this really cool idea for an activity book for children that looks at the fact that our God is a gardener and gives them different things to do. So it's a nature journal basically, and there's some different illustrations there to show what's inspired by, and then a little bit more about Rob and Naomi as well. So if you scroll down, you can then use these quick links here at the bottom to find your way back to the main page, or you can also find information about submitting an entry. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I really would like to pitch my own product idea, you can do that because this page gives you everything that you need. So the dates on here really are flexible. So if you want to pitch something, don't you worry, you can just send it in. It's really just to make sure that people have a fair shot at promoting their entry pages, and that we are able to feature everyone on our channels as Cheerfully Given as well before the voting period closes as well. So there's loads of information about it here. What I'm just going to do is copy and paste this link into the chat. And then if you haven't seen it yet, you can head over and have a little look at it. So that is some context for what Cheerfully Funded is. And Naomi is joining me for an interview, and we have got her page, which I'll be sharing with you, but I would love to chat to her and then provide the link once we've heard a bit more about her sort of vision for the idea, some of her backgrounds as well, because her story is incredibly inspirational and super interesting, and it's really great to have her with us for this evening. So that's a little bit of context, and the way that we've sort of set up the voting is so that as many projects can be funded as possible. So each of the projects has told me, and Sarah knows as well. Becky knows too, but Becky does slightly fewer hours than us, so she might not have seen all of the information yet. But basically, Cheerfully Given, our team are the only people who know. Just from a confidentiality point of view, we didn't want to share anything that was too sensitive. But the artists have told us how much they need for their project, and then they are split into bands. So we've got band A, band B, band C, and they're split by how much project needs. So is it more than £2,000? Is it £1,000 to £2,000, or is it under £1,000? And there will be at least one project funded from each of those bands, and we are super excited to announce the winners at the Cheerfully Given Summit this year on the 18th of June, which is going to be free to attend live. And so lifetime access is a pass this year rather than you needing to pay to access the whole thing, just because we wanted to make sure that people could come to our virtual award ceremony if they want to. So we do have the summit this year. It's going to be super fun. We've got Lou and Nathan coming to deliver worship again. Reverend Dr. Paul Blackham has been working on, for at least 6 months actually, we've been working on content looking at the senses. So what does it mean for us to see, hear, smell, taste and touch as followers of Jesus? And so the theme of this year's summit is very much exploring senses, and we've got workshops and interviews from Cheerfully Given sellers and Cheerfully Given artists in our community who are going to be sharing a bit more about that. So there'll be about 5 or 6 sessions a day. It's going to be a lot more low key this year. Last year was really intense every day and it was brilliant. But honestly, just on a personal level for me as the host, the last year has really been rough and my energy levels are not great and I'm still recovering from COVID. So we are still have got something totally value packed, but we are limited to 5 or 6 sessions a day because otherwise I just love everyone's stories so much that I just want to share everyone's things and we end up with like 10 things a day. So that's a little bit of what's coming up and how it all fits together. But Cheerfully Funded results are on Saturday, the 18th of June as part of the summit this year. So without further ado, I am going to welcome Naomi from Maydon Makes onto the live stream with me. So we are just going to say hello to Naomi and hopefully you can hear us okay and we can hear you okay. So Naomi.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So tell us a little bit more about you. Like, who are you? What do you do? Just give us the lowdown.
So in a nutshell, I was training to be a teacher 17 years ago. That was my passion. But unfortunately, I was struck down with some rare debilitating conditions, which mean I had to leave university and give up my dream, really, to be honest. So for many years, I wasn't able to do much at all. And then 9 years ago, I set up, with the help of my family, not-for-profit children's community groups, just to work back with children, which I love. And unfortunately, then COVID hit and stopped that as well. And off the back of that, unfortunately, my husband lost his job during COVID. So that's how Maydor Makes was born, because I love to craft, my happy place. So we decided to try and see if we could make a little business of it.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about the work that you have done in sort of the 9 years while you were doing your not-for-profit children's groups. You mentioned imaginative play. Like, maybe just could you tell us a bit more about what that is and what kind of work you did during that time?
So basically, I'm a real perfectionist. So I used to spend many hours creating very many different sessions, everything from themed messy play to creative storytelling, where I would set up a huge, massive hall space with like everything themed to the book. So basically the children would walk through the book and live it out as a story with props and massive scenery and everything. So everything was very creative, very imaginative. I'm really passionate about children learning through play. Really huge for them, and I just want to make it the most interactive I can on their own level, so they kind of get to live it and experience it rather than just learn about things.
Amazing. And how has that inspired Maydon Makes and the things that you do in your business?
Definitely a lot. Obviously, having worked with children for a long time, you really get to know them. You get to know their personalities, what makes them tick, what they love. And I've just seen them thrive so much in the role of imagination and creativity that when Maydor Makes was born, I knew that I had to focus on children because they're my passion. And I just wanted to make resources for them. They're not all biblical that we do generally, but obviously with you guys, I wanted to make them really tactile, just touchy-feely for them so they can like really get involved in stories, in learning, in numbers, colours, everything in between. And then I launched into a range of Bible products and haven't really looked back, to be honest. That's definitely where my passion is. I just want little ones to know the Bible, know Jesus from a small age, because, you know, it says in the word that if you train a child up in the way they should go, they will not depart from it when they're older. So for me tailoring it to their understanding, but also making it very relative, very personable, and just making it learning through play makes the stories come alive for them. So they're not just words on a page. And I think that's really important. So they get to interact with the story and hopefully retain it from there.
Amazing. What is one of your favorite Bible stories to tell children if you're in the space of being able to facilitate a session with some like children who are excited to learn more? What would you go to if I asked you to do something tomorrow at St. Gabriel's, for instance?
There's so many, but for me, I think Noah's Ark is great because there's so many parts to it. Obviously, it's very bright, it's very vibrant, and most children relate to animals and love them. So there's so many different animals you can incorporate in that, but also just the significance of how much God keeps his promises. There's so much you can draw out of that from the Bible that's to a level they would understand and relate to. So I think that's a really fun one to do because there's just, I mean, it's just vast, the amount of animals you can have and the colours and all those sorts of things. So probably that would be a go-to. My little boy used to like me to act out Peter walking on the water when he was little. So I think it's just, for me, it would be ones that really inspire them to know who Jesus is and develop a faith in him and an understanding of what he came to do, I guess.
Yeah. Incredible. What have you ever struggled with feeling like self-conscious when you're I think that's something that so many people in like British culture especially, I think we're all very afraid of like social embarrassment. So when it comes to like delivering sessions and stepping to that space of like playful imagination, have you ever felt self-conscious? What are some of your maybe tips and tricks for people who might be watching this thinking, Naomi, tell us your secrets?
Well, I don't know if I've got any secrets, but for me, definitely. But because I think when you work with children, you lose yourself in it. Well, I do. And you're more worried about what the parents think because they're the ones you have to impress, really. But the children, they just take you at your face value. They love what you do. You get stuck in. You have to lose your inhibitions to work with children because you have to get on their level. You have to be prepared to make yourself look a bit silly, to be honest. But they never judge you for that. So I think, regardless of whether there's a room full of parents, when you love what you do and you're passionate about it, you get lost in that moment. And I'm not going to lie, when I used to have to meet the parents and everything, it was intimidating and talk about what you're going to do. But once I'm in the zone and I'm with the kids, then you really do forget it because your passion and your drive for it sort of counteracts the nerves, I suppose. And with me, my families, I really got to know them on a personal level, one-to-one. You build relationships, so that just builds your confidence too. And I think, if you go up to each individual person and introduce yourself and break down those initial nervous barriers that a lot of young mums feel, it's a big deal for a lot of parents to come out with their children when they're first-time parents. And so they're feeling as much as you do. So I think if you can relate to them and realize you're not the only nervous one in the room, and that obviously really helps. But God, obviously, you just take everything back to him. He knows that you're terrified, but you do it scared. I've learned that a lot of things in life are very intimidating, especially with my health journey. It's been very frightening at times, but the only thing you can say is but God, because he's the only one you can lean on. He's the only one that can give you that peace, even if you're scared. If you can do it scared, knowing he's backing you, I think that makes all the difference.
Amazing. Love that insight. So tell us a bit more about some of your products from Maydor Makes. I don't know if you've got any that you can show us, but it would be awesome to
camera, right?
and hear a bit more about them. Don't worry, we're all just hanging out on our Wednesday evening. So if there's any camera malfunctions, it's all good.
I'm definitely more creative and technical, so you'll have to bear with me on that score.
Right,
but
we all are. That's why I think that's partly why Cheerfully Given appeals to so many artists, is because most of us are in the same boat.
We're creative space rather than technical.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously, I started out by making Bible story spoons. So they were like, scenes of the Bible through a story, and that really helps children learn to order things, which is obviously a great skill. And I went with kind of the foundational stories: Noah's Ark, Daniel and the lions, the Easter story, and then it progressed into, I can hold a few of them up, like peg doll sets, purely because they're just great to hold and touch and move around, and they're all made to safety standards, so they're all totally safe for children, and they're just kids love to touch things. They love to fidget. You know, you can't expect a child to learn in children's church, Sunday school, sitting still. Just, it doesn't work. So, you know, I really wanted to resource churches so they can just get kids involved. If you can give little people stuff to do, then not only do they retain the information, but they also concentrate better. And so it went from kind of Samson and Delilah. The sets just keep growing. The problem with me is I have too many ideas. That's my downside. And I can be up till 2 a.m. because I've had an idea. And then obviously the Cheerfully Funded, they progressed into games, but that's another story. But so they're very hard to see. These are some of the games, but I don't know how easy they will be. It's not a great angle, but
so talk us through this one.
This is Daniel and the Lion's Den Noughts and Crosses version, but with peg dolls rather than, you know, little counters. So they're okay, good for little hands. And the board is obviously painted with lions as well. And then everything will come in a themed handmade bag as well. So, you know, it's all very themed, all very linked. But it just allows you to open up. Some of them are more to open up a conversation, I suppose. I'll show you some more in a minute. You know, just to get them talking about the Bible, just to get them interested in what it means, that it's not just words on a page. But some of the games will have a lot more kind of scriptures in them and learning memory verses to win the game, all sorts of things. So it's kind of from little ones all the way up, so that, you know, it's very age related and they can be very much tailored to the ages anyway. But it depends whether it's a very initial introduction or whether your children know Jesus, so they just want to expand on that, I suppose. But, you know, my prayer is that these kids will find Jesus with what I do. And that might sound really silly because they're, you know, for little ones upwards. But, you know, children have such a heart that's receptive to Jesus. They don't have intellect in the way, which I think as adults is where we struggle sometimes. We have so many questions, whereas they just, well, my little boy's 12 now, but he just takes God at his word. You know, there isn't any, well, why does that say that? And there's no questions. It's beautiful, innocent, childlike faith. And I think I want my products to reflect that. I want them to start the conversation, start the curiosity to where they're fascinated by the Bible. And it just, but in a fun way, in a way that you can play as a family, in a way that you can, you know, spend time together, you know, so the Bible is relevant to their lives, I suppose.
It's one of the things that has inspired the theme for this year's summit actually is the idea of stepping away from intellect, because especially in church today, so much of what we do is us consuming information, and we're sort of going, and even though we understand that Jesus saves us without us having done anything to deserve it, we still there's still that sense of like, if you go to church, you often leave with the idea of like, what are you going to do for God this week? Like, what, come and worship, come and do this, like, come and believe, come and have faith. And it's very focused on activity and showing up and contributing and things like that. And I'm 32, I think, this year.
Think about that.
Like in my early 30s. And in the last year, I have been so empty at points that I have not had the intellectual capacity to engage with church in that way. And actually went to church to one service, and it was a really innocuous question in the sermon, but it was like, what are you going to go out and do for God this week? And it literally made me cry, because I was like, I can't do anything. I'm so exhausted. I feel empty. Like, I literally can't, like, I don't feel like I can look after myself. Like, the idea of like engaging with the sermon and creating a list of action points and going out and cracking on with stuff is just so overwhelming. And so we kind of just accept that until we get to a point where we're so burned out or exhausted, or, you know, grieving, or like whatever situation we're going through, where you can't engage with church and faith in the same way. And so it's like, what does Jesus mean for me if I am really empty and there's nothing remaining? And actually that's where things like the Lord's Supper and coming to have communion and eating the bread and drinking the wine, like, is that reminder to your senses that Jesus is yours to have, that his body was broken for you, that his blood was shed for you. That when you go to church and you see things like stained glass or art, then you don't need to read and like intellectualize necessarily. You hear the word, you hear the music, you know, those ways of engaging with like our senses are the most basic parts of who we are as humans, but they're often lost because of how much social construct we've got around you know, faith and church. So that's like a, you know, a bit of a maybe a bit of a ramble that doesn't make very much coherent sense at the moment, but I think that that space challenges us to then think, yeah, how do we engage children who don't have the same attention span as an adult who's, you know, done exams and gone to university and learned all the skills of like things. You know, how do we engage with people who are exhausted and broken as adults and don't have that capacity as well? So that idea of like the senses, I think, is something that is really exciting to explore as Christians, and it's really amazing to hear that, you know, the way that you've thought that through in terms of teaching children the Bible. And I think, yeah, loads of people are going to be super excited to support you in this journey as well. So tell us a little bit more about the games that you've developed, and like what that progression looked like from the sort of story spoons through to your peg dolls, and then now this idea of taking it that one step further into the sort of space for games. What was that sort of development like, and why are you so excited about it? What prompted it?
Okay, so obviously when I had your initial email about Cheerfully Funded, for us we're really new because we only launched in sort of the pandemic, so very tiny at the moment, but I have massive vision, probably again a bit like my creativity, too much vision without having the means to do it, but that's, you know, that's something we trust God with. But I think for me, you know, when I got your email I was like, okay, new range, and I've got so many ideas, but they're kind of offshoots of what I've already done, and I knew that it had to be something that I hadn't done before. So I really just said to God, I really need a God idea. I don't want a good idea, I need a God idea. And literally, you know, I said to my husband, I haven't got any ideas. And as soon as I said that, within such a short space of time, it was like just this light bulb. I know that sounds really weird, but it was literally that quick. It wasn't something I had to struggle over or think about. It just sort of popped into my head. So I don't take the credit for that. That was definitely not me. So it kind of progressed from there. And then I started sort of just doing some research really to see what was available for children. And it wasn't anything that excited me. Having worked with kids and kind of seeing how they tick, I was just like, oh, they're fine. There isn't that much generally anyway, but they weren't how I know children learn. They were, you know, not tactile enough, not colourful enough, not interactive enough. And so I just kind of progressed from there really. I just decided the kind of stories I would like to initially start with, although like I said, I've got too many ideas about where I want it to go. And to be perfectly honest, I'm just the sort of person that just creates from my own head. Again, that sounds weird. I don't really look at things and think, oh, that's a good idea, maybe I could tweak that to be mine. I'm just not that way. You know, when I did my kids groups, people are like, wow, where did you get this idea from? I'm like, just my head. It's just how my brain works. I'm just that kind of person that visualizes everything and then tries to make it happen, I suppose. So yeah, it really just went from that. And I just looked at different resources, different textures, way of making different games. So some would be on a board, some would be dice, some would be kind of races against each other, and just tried to make as many options as I could. And I think, you know, I think I made about 8 or 9 for Cheerfully Funded, just to give an idea of where I want this to go. I don't want it to be just board games. I want it to be really diverse. So, you know, every child, like every person, is totally individual. You know, they all learn differently. They all love different things. And, you know, having worked with so many across the board and people with different needs, different health challenges, I just wanted, I don't know, to give everybody a fair shot at enjoying it, I suppose. So it was accessible for all. And to be perfectly honest, it was just God. It just grew in my head, and then my hands grew what was in my head. As simple as that sounds, that literally was it. And then once I'd made one, then another idea popped in, and it, you know, I was only intending to make a few samples, but then it grew to 8, and I realized I really need to stop now. Otherwise you would have probably had 50 pictures.
It's super exciting for people to be able to get that sense of where things can go as well, you know, where the idea that you know, 50, there are definitely 50 games that can be made. And so yeah, what I thought we'd do is, I'm gonna see, I've not done this before, so we've been made very tiny, but what I thought I would do is go to your Cheerfully Funded page, because there are pictures of your samples that
Thank you.
you've
That's helpful.
created so beautifully. So this is Naomi's page on Cheerfully Funded, which I'm going to share in the chat here as well. It's great to see your comments coming through. Eleanor, your insight is always so encouraging, and Sarah's got a little comment there as well. Pat and Kay are also sharing, so just to say thank you so much. Love to see you in the comments. So if you're watching the replay as well, please do let us know, because it'd be great to say hello. It's usually me and Sarah who see the comments coming through. So just want to acknowledge the comments that are coming through, and we'll circle back to those, because there's some really encouraging things there as well. But the link for Naomi's Cheerfully Funded page is here, and we can see here we've got the what I think, Naomi, is this a picture that has all of the games in it? Is all, yeah, all the stuff in here. So you can see a few more pictures here as well. And maybe, Naomi, could you talk us through some of them?
Yeah, of course. So I'm very sorry, my cat is roaming around me, so she jumps on the table. I do apologise. Knocks everything off.
Google is in here living his best life with a phone, so you might be able to see him. I've got a dog here, you've got a cat there. We're representing.
We're already up here now, great. So the first one, the individual picture, is basically a different concept. It's a Noah's Ark game. So you end up with, if you can just see the kind of big chunky coloured dice, you roll it and you build your rainbow. There'll be two sets. So children will race against each other depending on what colour they get, because obviously they may get purple twice, but they've already had purple, so they have to roll again. And basically, when they get their first colour, they just start to build the rainbow. But there will be a corresponding, there's none in the picture, there'll be a corresponding colour card, and that colour card will ask them a question, something to do with Noah's Ark. Now, if they get the question right, they win basically their peg that matches, so the purple bird, if they've got a purple, for example. And they have to build the entire rainbow with the colour corresponding pegs, and it's the first player to win who builds it with the pegs. So that was the thought on that one, just because it all packs up really lovely. The rainbow stacks inside each other, so there's a way of them learning as well as learning about Jesus. So it's kind of a dual aspect. To try and make them have different learning outcomes as well as the Bible, because it just helps with better value for money, really, that they can use them in many different ways. Also, with the idea of having pegs in all the games, is that you can use them if you're a Sunday school teacher or just at home. You can live out the story using the characters outside of the game as well, so that, again, money's tight for everybody. So I just want, although there's no money really in crafting, as we all know, I want to make people have dual uses, so that, because really my heart is, it's never been about money. I'm just not built that way. It's about what I believe in and what I love. And, it's an honor for me to make these. Churches have bought my resources already, and it's just, the feedback's just lovely. It fulfills me, which sounds really silly, but, I've lost so much to sickness, and I'm still battling that so many years on, that this for me makes me feel me. It makes me realize that the talents and the gifts that God put inside me for kids can be used, even if I've had to jig them into a different way, I suppose. They're not gone, they're just different.
It's something I've been challenged by over and over again in situations where you feel a sense of lack in a space, is that creativity is often born out of that space of needing something. So it might be that you don't have enough time, or you don't have enough money, or you don't have enough energy, but often creativity is born out of there being some kind of problem that needs to be solved, and it's that form of innovation. So I think that the likelihood of you having the ideas that you've had from Maydon Makes, if you hadn't been through so many years of sickness and having to really struggle to figure out what it looks like to channel your passion and gifts into something, you probably wouldn't have ever had these ideas without that season of struggle. So it's really an interesting thing to think through, especially as we go through the harder seasons of life and it feels like things are so relentless, but then, you know, years down the line, we sort of see some fruit from it as the refining fire that brings forth the shining silver and gold. So maybe if you have time, because we've got I've still got a few minutes, so if you have time to maybe talk us through some of the other ideas. Snakes and ladders is super intriguing to me, if you are happy to maybe share a bit more about that one. Yeah, but if you have the time, I'm sure that there are others who would love to hear more about it as well, because we've still got quite a few people watching us live.
So basically, I wanted to do some, you know, games that people are familiar with, but with a Bible twist. And then I also wanted to do ones that are totally just my baby, my ideas. And they took obviously a lot more thought and work. But snakes and ladders, I kind of went with the concept of the ladders being like Jacob's ladder up to heaven, and the snakes obviously being the serpent and deceiving. So when you go down a snake, it often sort of has comments on it like, you know, don't listen to a voice that's not Jesus, for example. Just simple truths so that you realize that actually it's visually seeing it, that following the path that isn't meant for you only takes you backwards, not forwards. And it's kind of playing on that version of snakes and ladders, that, you know, to have success is to walk on with Jesus. It's not to look behind you. It's not to listen to, you know, deception or distraction. And then all over the board, there's different sort of things about Jesus, key points about him, but there's also scriptures, and there will be cards that you take and they will tell you to move on a certain space. It's a bit of a twist, and then you might end up down a ladder, up a ladder or down a snake, following what you've learned. So it will be a way of learning through the Bible, learning scriptures, but also just getting that concept of the success you get when you follow Jesus, and the not the success as much as the life change that it is, and you go in the right direction, and, you know, just really playing on good and evil, I suppose, in some respects, and, you know, choosing the right side in your life in a simple way.
And even the word success, I think, is a really great one to challenge us there, because we can so often hear the word success and think, oh, no, I'm not looking for success. But it's like, but what's your definition of success, right? Exactly. If your definition of success is a life that lives, you know, that lives the way of Jesus, then that is what true success looks like. Absolutely. So yeah, I love that. That's incredible. I'm looking forward to playing some of these with my godchildren, honestly.
He's like, let's play snakes and ladders, because he knows the Bible really well, so he'll probably beat me.
Love that. So maybe if you could just talk us through these other three a little bit, just so that when people are looking at the page, they know, they can remember our conversation.
Of course, the others obviously aren't full sets; they're just kind of a snippet, because I kind of ran out of time with that. But again, it won't just be Noah's Ark. I'm just trying to show the different sort of pictures that there will be, if you like. So there'll be different dominoes. They'll probably end up being pretty much every Bible story and every game I've ever thought of, and probably more if I get anywhere with this. But, you know, the dominoes, for example, the first one is just like a snippet of Noah's Ark, and the other one is based on creation. Again, it's just for younger children rather than numbers. It's obviously matching the pictures. But again, I wanted them to be really, they're quite large dominoes. They don't really show that. They're not, you know, your tiny ones at all. They're quite big. They're like a small ruler size, I suppose. So again, they're a bit more bomb proof for kids. And, you know, of course, it's the normal dominoes game, but through that, I hope again that a conversation will start about the world, how it was made, you know, what happened. It's supposed to be at that level, more of a conversation starter, I suppose. And then, you know, if they have their own Bible with pictures, they can link it to it. So that's one. Obviously comes again in a bag. The middle one is what I deem as the journey to Bethlehem. So there's a little wooden stable, and the front of it pulls out, so the pegs live inside, so it's all kind of packs away nicely. Now, again, a 2-player, so there would be Mary and Joseph pegs twice. Now, they're slightly different shape pegs on the basis that people can realize which character is theirs on the board. And basically, it's a journey. There'll be a spinner, and there's various things along the way on the path which tell them to do with the story, things they have to remember, cards they have to pick up, and they have to get both of Mary and Joseph to the stable, and inside the stable will be baby Jesus. So it's a way of the journey to Bethlehem, and the end result is Jesus is born, basically. But you learn as you go along the way. Even there's a donkey peg, for example. If you land on the right space, you pick him up so you get there a bit quicker. And, you know, there's just little quirks that just make it a bit of fun, really. I'm really passionate about families spending time off screens. Obviously, there's a massive place for technology, but
I mean, like, it's just the irony of us being sat here.
Family time is kind of lost.
Sharing a screen, looking at ways to not be on the screens, but it's such a good life goal. But it is a bit meta for us to be. Yeah, I'm like, have I ever had more screens than I have in this particular moment? No.
I think it's the way of the world, and I think it's just really nice sometimes because everything's tech, isn't it? And you know, kids love tech from tiny, but it's just a really nice way of kind of talking and interacting. My little boy loves board games, and you know, he would play them for hours, but he also loves screens. So it's just a nice way of still doing something that's a bit more family friendly, I suppose. And you know, especially with grandparents, it's just something that you can kind of include all the generations in, and it's quite precious, really, I think, because you know, a massive spiritual heritage if you've got Christian parents and grandparents, that to get everybody involved is really special.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredible gift. Like, my mum became a Christian when I was already a child, and my dad is Muslim. So it's not something that I've had for myself, but it's something that, you know, is such an incredible gift to see. And like, you know, our really close friends who are Christians, and just the family life that they have and the way that they're able to share Jesus together. Like, it's just such an incredible blessing to be able to share that as generations for Jesus. That sounds really cheesy. Generations for Jesus.
You know, that's the thing, kids are the next generation, and I think that's where my passion lies. I mean, I love being a mum. That's like the best thing in the entire universe. I've never loved anything as much as that. But you know, my little boy's hungry. He's hungry to know about God, you know, and he has such a beautiful relationship with him that I've kind of, you know, I became a Christian when I was really little, and I was blessed to have a dad as an evangelist and, you know, a really good spiritual heritage. And, you know, he's been blessed with that because obviously my husband and I are both saved. But, you know, it's just really precious how they love to learn. They do. They have a heart for it if you capture them at the right age before. Obviously, as they get teenagers, the world pulls so much harder. So if you can engage them at this age, you know, and give them that initial burning passion to learn, then I just think we've got a better shot at raising a generation of kids that love God. And you know, the world's a difficult place for our children growing up, so you know, the more they're exposed to things that are going to help them, all the better. And for me, you know, my passion is to pray over every game that I sell that child will find Jesus through something this simple, you know. And that's a real privilege, I think, that you know, I will have prayed a blessing over them. And you know, it's just, there's so much we can do as Christians that doesn't even cost money, you know, and can have an impact. And I think for me, you know, so many challenges I've had, you know, to deal with so much in life, that, you know, just to be able to give something back actually, you know, and have a heart of compassion for other people, just honestly, it's the best feeling in the world. You know, it doesn't matter necessarily what you've been through, but if you can still give something and see someone else's life change, then it's just an incredible feeling, you know. And kids are just, they're just ready. Their hearts are open and they're ready for the picking, if you like, if we can put it like that. So yeah,
absolutely love that. What I'm going to do as we wrap up is share your Cheerfully Given shop, which has your current products that are available to buy. So obviously in the chat, in the comments, we've shared the link to Naomi's Cheerfully Funded page. If you love this idea for these wooden games that are inspired by Bible stories, they're designed to be able to play with children and teach children Bible stories and get them really excited about the stories that we're reading at home and at church, and just make those feel more real, then you can go to this page, and all you need to do is just pop your name and email address in and submit your vote. And then there is an email just to confirm that you're a real person, not a robot, that you will just need to click confirm your vote. And then that vote, which takes less than 30 seconds to submit, can bring these products to life. So There's lots of other entries that we'll be hearing from over the next sort of 3 weeks, 3 weeks on Friday until the voting closes. But you can go and vote for Naomi's products now, and then you won't forget to do it. And the link is there for you to do. So that's something super easy you can do. Doesn't cost any money, and really will be a great encouragement to Naomi as well. But if you're feeling really inspired for being able to share Bible stories using props that are tactile and beautiful and handcrafted, then Naomi's Cheerfully Given shop here has got all of her peg doll sets and her Bible story spoon sets as well. So you can browse all of those and you can see a little bit more about them. And I know that I'm just keeping an eye out here. I'm not sure if Samson and Delilah is here, but
yes, it is the third one along.
Third one along. Yes, there we go. Samson. There we go. So Eleanor had mentioned about that in the chat because her little boy's favourite Bible story is Samson and Delilah. So there you go, Eleanor. You can see that there and browse and see what's included. So that's just to show you Naomi's business there. You've got some products that are available to buy, and then you can vote for the games to be brought into existence. So I'm going to remove that. Naomi, thank you so much for joining me for this. And I haven't, we talked about this on our Zoom the other day, and I haven't actually sent a follow-up email because I'm still like dealing with the whole COVID thing. But what we're hoping is that Naomi might come and do a session at the summit, looking at maybe on the touch day, thinking about how we can use props and things to share Bible stories creatively with children, so that if you are a parent or a guardian, or you are involved in Sunday school or children's work, or even telling doing the sermon at church on Sundays, anyone will who's involved in those sorts of capacities has got lots of things they can learn from Naomi's experience in this space before she started Maydon Makes, as well as in what she's doing now. So hopefully that will we'll have a conversation behind the scenes. I'm putting Naomi on the spot now, but we had already talked about it, don't worry. Becky and Sarah in the comments will be like, Menekse is tormenting the Cheerfully Given. It's fine. But no, we had talked about it on Zoom before, so I'm gonna just say that. But we'll be sharing more about Maydor Makes over on the Instagram page and things like that as well. So you can keep an eye out for that. And you can find Naomi on social media if you want to follow along with her journey. So thank you so much. Naomi, I'm just going to pray for you, if that's okay, before we wrap up our interview. And everyone who is watching, if you've got any comments or questions or anything at all, feel free to ask them. And if you're watching the replay, we can follow up with Naomi, and we can send you anything that you need. So I'm going to pray for Naomi now, but please do be bearing her in mind as you pray as well, and keep her in your prayers, and her business and the heart that she has for children. So Heavenly Father, we want to praise and thank you for the way that you inspire us, and just really give us hearts for knowing Jesus, walking alongside him, and of thinking about how we can communicate the good news of the life that we have in him with those around us, whether they are children or parents or grandparents or guardians, like whoever we are surrounded by. We can share the good news of Jesus in all of these incredible, creative and different ways. And Heavenly Father, we want to praise and thank you for Naomi. We want to thank you so much for the gift that you've given her. We want to thank you for the way that she takes ideas and runs with them, that she is stewarding the ideas that you give to her with diligence. We want to ask that you would sustain her, that you would fill her with your spirit and give her strength and energy as she works faithfully to really provide these resources so that many children around the UK can come to know Jesus. We want to pray that you would just lift her up and bless her. We want to pray that she would feel supported and encouraged in this journey, and that you you would just really meet her every need. We want to thank you for her husband and how supportive he is, and the role that he plays in supporting Maydon Makes and in creating the products. And we want to just ask blessing on Naomi and her family, and pray that everything that they are working towards here would be just seen and known by you. And we want to ask that your provision and your blessing and your goodness and mercy would fall on them in a way that they can just be so grateful and thankful for. Heavenly Father, we want to really just lift them up before you today and leave them with you and before your throne. Thank you for this amazing idea for Bible games, and we want to just ask that your Spirit would lead Naomi's footsteps as she continues to grow Maydor Makes and create these resources. We want to pray that Maydor Makes games and resources would be found in churches all over the UK, and that they would just make Jesus known across this nation. We ask in Jesus' name, and for him to be lifted high. Amen.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing.
Thank you for being here. I hope it wasn't too I hope it wasn't too it was a bit maverick today. We didn't have any formal questions.
I was so nervous, but you made it very easy.
We wanted it to just feel like a relaxed chat. If I'd been prepared, we could have had a little coffee or tea or something like look, we're having a coffee and a chat. But, thank you for being here and for sharing so much of your story and your heart. And we are all so excited to see what the future has in store for Maydon Makes and as you take it forward. So thank you for being here, and we'll maybe hear from you at the summit, but I'll follow up with you about that by email.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
anybody that listened. Thank you.
Thanks for being here, and I'll chat to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So Naomi has gone hopefully to decompress after that, and we're just so grateful to her for being with us this evening at the first ever CGTV episode of Live. It's been super chilled. It's brought the evening hanging out energy to the table, and Naomi was very, very patient with how chilled out I was in planning and executing it. So if you've been with us live and you have any questions or anything at all, do check those out. So on to our final section. I'm just going to remind myself of what was on the table for today, because I think that I covered all of it before Naomi came on live, because I got carried away as usual chit-chatting. So I'm just gonna have a little check and make sure that we've covered all of our bases. But if you have any questions, again, after we've finished, you can check this out. So we've done a little bit of a general update. If you do want to read what's been going on for me personally, I'm happy to share that link privately via email. So just pop an email over and ask. I don't mind sending it out, but it's just it's not relevant to Cheerfully Given, but some people I know have been to all of the events and things and might want to read that. A look at what's coming up over the weeks and months ahead, including opportunities for you to get involved with Cheerfully Given's projects. That was what I had forgotten. So we did cover some of that because we looked at Cheerfully Funded. We looked at the summit, which is obviously in June. Yay! So excited for that. But one of the other things that we have been working on behind the scenes, when I say we, I mean me and Sarah and Becky. Lucy, who has been helping us out so far this year, just had her baby yesterday. So we have been really excited to see her finally have her baby after having contractions for 3 weeks. She had a C-section yesterday and they're home safely now. So super grateful and praising Jesus for the safe arrival of her baby. And we have been working on things behind the scenes that look at how we deal with the changes that have been happening in tech. So one of the things that's happened in from November, but it came into action in January, is that Facebook has stopped letting Christians advertise, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence that Christian content is being suppressed. It's not just Christians, it's religious groups as well. So just to clarify that in case it sounds really excessive. It's not quite the right word, but my brain still isn't quite working as quickly as it normally does after COVID. But what we realized was that a lot of our community spaces for things like the summit, for our Cheerfully Given sellers and so on, were taking place in Facebook groups. And so we have been looking at alternatives for how we can deliver the creative content, resource one another, encourage one another in a way that is not so reliant on the metaverse. So we have been working on that behind the scenes. And for instance, it enables us to give anyone who's been part of our previous summits lifetime access to their content instead of it being 1 year only. So we've been getting some systems built behind the scenes for things like that. So that's all super exciting. And it also means that we have a more resilient system for including lots of different voices. So we have the summit every year for the last 3 years, and before that it was the conference. This is our 4th year, our 4th annual event, and I am just one person who is not very well at the moment, and I have Becky, who's been working with Cheerfully Given for 3 years now. It's been Becky, if you're still watching, which has gone really quickly. So Becky does about 6 hours a week at the moment. She does between 6 and 10 hours a week, and she's in Anglesey. Becky's going on maternity leave in later this year. I think you'll be going on maternity leave in August, but we haven't had that conversation yet, so I'm not 100% sure what date. And then Sarah has been doing about 15 hours a week up until this year, and then we've just increased that to sort of 20, 25 hours a week because her daughter has gone to nursery. So we are a small team, and we love to put events on and things like that, but obviously small team, limited time resources, and especially when you take into account the chaos that has happened for me personally over the last 12 years. It's 12 years, not 12 years, 12 months, 12 months or more. But what it means is just that it's very time intensive, and so when we're setting things up, we're always looking at how we can automate or make things work without our direct input as much as possible, so that we have that time to connect with people and we're not just spending all of our time hustling behind the scenes. So we've been honestly, we've done a sterling job, if I do say so myself. Like, the things that we've got set up are just so much more resilient, and they allow us to include a much greater number of people without it having such an intensive impact on my own personal workload. So I no longer need to burn the midnight oil and get up at dawn. So that's really exciting, and it means that we'll be able to do more blogging, more interviews like this. Basically, we'll be able to just share more content, share more resources, share more encouragement, share more community with one another, and really hopefully resource all of you in your local areas and your local churches to share Jesus through creativity, which is what Cheerfully Given is all about. So with all of that that we've been working on this year, it means that if you are interested in being a blogger or regularly contributing to whether it's like writing or video or being part of some of those things, that is something that we would love to have you. So we've got 280 sellers who are all part of the Cheerfully Given community and involved in different things, and then we've got a wider, so that's people who sell on the marketplace. And then we have lots of people who don't necessarily create products. They don't create physical products, but they're creative. Or we have people who are active in their local churches, and they've got a huge amount of wisdom to offer in terms of local church life, and they're not necessarily selling products. So we basically have, people who are creatives who sell on the marketplace, and then we have a whole extra periphery of people who have just been incredible resources of creativity, and we want to be able to include the voices of those people on things like our YouTube channel and on our social media platforms, and have some of those valuable conversations that are really encouraging and inspirational and help us to step out with boldness, because we have got creative cheerleaders who are like, no, this is something that might feel challenging or scary because it's new and you haven't seen it done before, but we are here and we believe in this, and we believe in being able to share Jesus through this. So the hope is that moving forward, the things that we've got in place, from building them all out this year behind the scenes, that idea of like growing deeper roots so that we can grow bigger oak trees, has very much been there. So we are, as a team, me, Sarah and Becky, are all really excited about what is coming up ahead. We're all a bit tired and burnt out from how this year has been so far, but we are also just so excited at the opportunities that the Lord is so gracious in giving us to continue to serve the group of people that Cheerfully Given attracts. So that's the sellers, obviously, on Cheerfully Given in the marketplace itself, but also all of the people who engage with that, and all of the people who buy from the marketplace, who come to the summit, who come to our different events. And I personally just want to say thank you so much for how patient people have been over the last year, because one of the things that has been incredibly hard, just talking about like personal leadership level, is that it has been a season of just feeling like a shell, really, and the sense of like letting people down because I can't show up like I normally would have, has been quite heavy as a burden, and is not something that I have been light-hearted about. So if you have borne with us patiently, then please know that that is deeply appreciated, both by me and also Becky and Sarah, who've also been going through it as well. And the one thing that I think I'd never, just the sense of every season brings us closer to Jesus in some way and has the opportunity to do so. I had never felt like I prayed with integrity for Jesus to come back before. And before you stoned me as a heretic, what I mean by that is, as a Christian, you always want Jesus to come back, right? You're always like, oh yeah, it'd be great when Jesus comes back. Because nobody's like, oh yeah, it'll be rubbish when Jesus comes back. I'm not interested in that anymore. Like, let me just crack on here for now. But I think the sense is like, there's always things to do here, right? So you're like, oh yeah, it'd be great if Jesus comes back. But also if he doesn't, then I've got stuff to do and I can get this finished and, keep working. And that had always been my attitude, really. And I had felt challenged by it, but I also was like, I don't really know how to address that. And one of the things over the last year is that I do now know what it looks like to just pray for Jesus to come back and actually genuinely yearn for him to come back, to just interrupt the onslaught of human existence that happens to us, which sounds simultaneously bleak, but it is actually a positive thing, right? It's good that we can yearn for Jesus to come back and know that he is the only answer to the things that we're facing and things that we're dealing with, that he is the one who fills us with life when we feel nothing but death. He is the one who fills us joy when we are full of sorrow. He is the one who uplifts us when we are in a pit. So all of those things, and just understanding what that looks like, while we're going through these dark seasons, actually we have so much that we can just know from clinging to Jesus and knowing who he is. So yeah, Becky, exactly. He can come back after the wedding, after the children are born, after the house is bought. Now, can we please just have Jesus and an unbroken creation? Exactly. We can always be looking to that next thing, that carrot on a stick idea of life, where you're like, I just need to catch that thing and then everything will be fine. And actually, it's not. Life is messy, but life is messy, and Jesus is still the emperor of the universe. Even in the mess and the struggle and the darkness, he is the light and the life and the joy. So we don't tell people not to feel sadness, but we can know joy in sadness, even though that doesn't make sense to people who don't know Jesus. So anyway, big old ramble, gone over time as usual. We are aiming for 9 p.m, but honestly, if you've come to any of my lives before, you'll know that we'll probably finish at 9:15 or 9:30. And if you have joined us for this, then thank you. And it's hopefully something that will run much more smoothly and professionally in future weeks, but it is also a space for us to just connect in with one another and hear from some of the amazing creatives who are doing cool things around the UK. So If you have any requests for sections or segments you would like us to add in, then please do let us know. It will get more slick over time, if nothing else, because I'm a bit of a nerd about streaming these days, and I have loads of cool ideas, but I still don't have the energy levels to fulfill them. So we're just going with talking head for now. So anyway, I'm going to leave you there for the rest of your Wednesday evening. And if you haven't voted yet for Cheerfully Funded, it is just funded.cheerfullygiven.com, and you can browse all the entries. There might be some new entries being added in. There's a couple of people at least that I know had an idea that they wanted to submit, but were feeling a little bit nervous about it. So we've been doing the little pep talk behind the scenes to be like, no, come on, let's do it. You want to, because everyone will love it once it's out there. So you might see some new entries added over time as well. And then we'll be back into a program of regular scheduling when it comes to all things content. So we're doing an Instagram live tomorrow. I think it's in the evening. I need to double check the time, but we do have an Instagram live, and I can tell you who it's with if you are happy to just give me 10 seconds. It's not in my calendar, so maybe it isn't happening. People have to book onto them from the entrance, and we had a little bit of reticence for this week because it was the first one. So either way, we will be doing so we've got Rob and Naomi next Wednesday evening. That's exciting. So there definitely are some Instagram lives happening, but next week on Wednesday evening we've got Rob and Naomi from Frog and Gnome, and you'll remember from earlier, it's like I planned this and I absolutely didn't but they have the idea for the nature journal, so they'll be coming to talk a little bit more about that and a bit more about their business. Rob and Naomi have been on Cheerfully Given at 40 years. They might be OGs, originals from the first 40. I have a feeling that I think it was a few months after we actually launched the beta website, but I will check that before next week. But please come back, tune in next Wednesday, where we'll have Rob and Naomi from Frog and Gnome. You can ask them questions. We'll hear more about their product idea. Their business is the way it's just grown and evolved over time. They now live in the Scottish border areas. They'll be more specific maybe about that next week. And just super, super great to hear from them next week as well. So it's going to be good. And yeah, that's next Wednesday. Meantime, go get voting. And please do feel free to share it with your friends as well if you have the friends who are interested in this kind of thing, because it really will make a really big difference to at least 3 different business owners and their product ideas. And it'll be great to see some new ideas being brought to market as well, to use a bit of tech, corporate speak there. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for today. Sorry, it's been a bit rambling. I am going to blame the fact that I'm still recovering from COVID, but thanks for bearing with. And I will see you next week, if not before, on Instagram, because we've got the lives that are happening over there. And let me know if you've got anything you want to see from CGTV on Wednesday evenings moving forwards, because it will be a regular slot. I'll see you all soon. Have a good Wednesday, everyone. And just see you next week.